I had $23 in tips that morning. $23 between me and keeping the lights on. But when I saw that little girl's wheelchair stuck in the doorway, her daddy struggling, something in my chest just moved. I gave her my money. I never expected what came next. Before we get into this story, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because the twist in this tale, you won't see it coming. And trust me, you'll want to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Now, let me take you back to that Tuesday morning. My name is Monique, and I've been a waitress at Rosie's Diner for 6 years now. 6 long years of sore feet, grease-stained aprons, and customers who think a dollar tip on a $15 check is generous. But I'm not complaining. Well, not too much anyway. After my husband Gerald died 2 years ago in that car accident, this job became everything. It's how I keep food on the table for my 9-year-old son Andre. It's how I pay for my mama's diabetes medication. It's how we survive. That Tuesday started like any other. I woke up at 5 in the morning, got Andre ready for school, made sure mama took her pills, and headed to the diner for the breakfast shift. As I tied my apron in the back room, I counted the tips from the day before. $23.35. I kept the quarters for laundry and stuffed the $23 in my pocket. Rent was due in 3 days, and I was still $200 short. My landlord, Mr. Patterson, wasn't the understanding type. He'd already warned me last month that late meant eviction, and he had a waiting list of people ready to take my apartment. The morning rush was slow. It was one of those gray, drizzly days where folks would rather stay home than come out for eggs and coffee. By 9:30, the diner was practically empty except for old Mr. Henderson reading his newspaper in the corner booth and 2 truckers arguing about football at the counter. I was refilling the sugar dispensers, trying not to think about that rent money when I heard it. A man's voice, frustrated and strained, coming from the entrance. "Come on, sweetheart. We're almost there. I got you." I looked up and saw him. A tall black man in his late 30s, maybe early 40s, wearing khaki pants and a button-down shirt that had seen better days. But what caught my attention wasn't him. It was the little girl in the wheelchair. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with the sweetest round face and braids decorated with colorful beads. Her wheelchair was stuck at the entrance because Rosie's Diner, bless its heart, was built in 1952, and accessibility wasn't exactly a priority back then. There was a 2-inch lip at the doorway, and her daddy was struggling to lift the front wheels over it. I watched as people looked up from their coffee, glanced at the situation, and then went right back to their conversations. Not one person moved to help. Something about that made my stomach turn. Maybe it was because I knew what it felt like to be invisible, to need help and have everyone look right through you. Or maybe it was because that little girl reminded me of my own child, the way Andre looks at me with those trusting eyes, believing I can fix anything. I dropped the sugar dispenser on the counter and rushed over. "Here, let me help you with that," I said, already reaching for the wheelchair. The man looked startled at first, maybe not used to strangers jumping in, but then his face softened with relief. Together we lifted the chair over that threshold, and I made sure to keep my hand on the back until we got to a good table near the window. "Thank you," he breathed out, and I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. Not just from lifting the chair, but from something deeper. Something I recognized because I carried it too. "No problem at all," I said, smiling down at the little girl. "And what's your name, sweetie?" She looked up at me with these big brown eyes that just sparkled and said, "Isabella." "And that's my daddy, Trevor." "Well, Isabella, it is so nice to meet you. I'm Miss Monique, and I'm going to take real good care of you today. You like pancakes?" Her whole face lit up. "With extra syrup?" "With all the syrup you want, baby girl." I brought the menus, but Isabella already knew what she wanted. Pancakes with extra syrup, a side of bacon, and orange juice. Trevor ordered coffee and scrambled eggs, but I noticed his hands were shaking slightly when he handed me back the menu. There was something about him that seemed off. Not dangerous or anything like that, just guarded. Like he was waiting for something bad to happen. While I put their order in, I watched them through the kitchen window. Trevor was helping Isabella cut her napkin into smaller pieces. Something about the way her hands worked made fine motor skills difficult, but the patience in his movements, the gentleness, it reminded me of how Gerald used to be with Andre. That kind of daddy love that doesn't need words. When I brought out their food, Isabella started telling me everything, and I mean everything. How they were traveling through town because her daddy had business at the hospital, how she loved dolphins more than anything in the world, how there was an aquarium downtown with a dolphin exhibit, and she'd been wanting to go there for 2 whole years, but it cost money, and money was tight, and she understood, she really did, but she still dreamed about it every night. Trevor tried to shush her gently, embarrassed maybe, but I just smiled. You know what, Isabella? I think dolphins are pretty special too, and I bet they'd be lucky to have you visit them. She drew me a picture while she ate, used the crayons we keep in a cup for kids. It was a dolphin jumping out of the water, and she signed it at the bottom in wobbly letters. To Miss Monique, from your friend Isabella. Y'all, my heart just about broke open right there. They finished eating, and I brought over the check, $18.50. Trevor reached for his back pocket, and then his face changed. All the color drained out, and his hand moved frantically from pocket to pocket, checking his shirt, his jacket, his pants again. Nothing. I don't, he stammered, and I could see the panic rising in his eyes. My wallet, it's not here. I must have left it in the car. Isabella's eyes started filling with tears. Daddy? It's okay, baby. It's okay. Daddy just needs to go back to the car. It's parked about 6 blocks away because we couldn't find closer parking, and I can't leave you here alone, and I can't take you back out in that rain. He was spiraling, and I understood why. It wasn't just about the $18. It was about dignity, about being able to provide for your child, about not wanting to be that person who can't pay their bill. I knew that feeling intimately. Other customers were starting to stare now, whispering. The same people who didn't help with the wheelchair were now ready to judge this man for forgetting his wallet. I felt anger rise up in my chest, but more than that, I felt something else. A pull, like this was a moment that mattered, even if I didn't know why yet. I reached into my apron pocket and pulled out those crumpled bills. My $23, my rent money, the money I needed desperately. But when I looked at Isabella's face, tears rolling down her cheeks because she thought they were in trouble, and I looked at Trevor's face, that mixture of shame and helplessness, I knew what I had to do. The bill's taken care of, I said quietly, putting the money in my pocket instead of on the table, like it came from somewhere else, like it wasn't the last cash I had to my name. Trevor stared at me. What? No, I can't let you. It's done, I said firmly. Then I pulled out a $10 bill from my tips, the only other money I had on me, and I pressed it into Isabella's hand. And this is for you, sweetheart, for when you go see those dolphins. Because dreams are important, baby girl. Don't ever let anyone tell you they're not. Isabella looked at the money like I'd handed her $1 million. Trevor just stood there, mouth open, unable to form words. Finally, he managed to say, I'll come back. I promise you, I will come back and pay you back every cent, I swear it. I waved him off. You just take care of that sweet girl. That's all the payment I need. They left, and I watched them through the window as Trevor lifted Isabella's wheelchair down that entrance lip, careful and slow. She was holding that $10 bill like it was a treasure, and Trevor turned back once to look at me through the glass. There was something in his expression I couldn't quite read. Gratitude, yes, but something else too. Something that looked almost like he was studying me, memorizing my face. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. My boss Helen noticed I was distracted, kept messing up orders, putting salt in the sugar dispensers. When she asked what was wrong, I told her about the rent situation. She felt bad, I could tell, but Rosie's diner was barely keeping its own lights on. She couldn't help. That night, I lay awake doing math in my head. No matter how I calculated it, I couldn't make the numbers work. I'd have to call Mr. Patterson in the morning and beg. Again, the thought made me sick. 3 days later, Friday morning, I showed up to the diner with $340 in cash. I'd borrowed from everyone I could, picked up an extra overnight shift at the gas station, and scraped together everything from the tips jar. Still $200 short. Mr. Patterson walked in at 10 o'clock, right on schedule, his face already set in that expression that said he'd rather evict me than deal with excuses. "Miss Monique," he said, not even sitting down. "I believe we had an understanding about today. Mr. Patterson, please, I have most of it. I just need one more week. I promise I've heard that before. I've got another tenant ready to move in tomorrow. You've got until 5 o'clock to have all of it, or you're out." My hands were shaking as I watched him leave. Helen put her hand on my shoulder, but there was nothing to say. I was about to lose everything: the apartment Andre had grown up in, the place where Gerald's pictures still hung on the walls, our home. I was in the back, crying into a dish rag, when Helen came rushing in. "Monique, there's someone here to see you." "I can't deal with customers right now, Helen. I think you need to come out here." Something in her voice made me listen. I wiped my eyes, straightened my apron, and walked out into the dining room. And there he was, Trevor. But he looked different. He was wearing a tailored navy suit, expensive shoes, and he wasn't alone. There were 2 other people with him, a man and a woman in business attire carrying briefcases. My first thought was that I was in trouble, that somehow I'd done something wrong, and these were lawyers coming to sue me or something. My stomach dropped to my feet. "Miss Monique," Trevor said, and his voice was warm but serious. "Can we sit down and talk?" I nodded, unable to speak, and we moved to a corner booth. The whole diner was watching now. Helen stood behind the counter, her hand over her mouth. The 2 people with Trevor opened their briefcases and started pulling out papers, and I thought, this is it. This is where my life completely falls apart. "First," Trevor said, reaching into his jacket pocket, "I need to pay you back for breakfast." He pulled out a $100 bill and put it on the table. "That should cover it, and the tip I should have left." I blinked at the money. That's way too much." "No," he said softly. "It's not nearly enough. Miss Monique, I need to tell you something. My full name is Trevor Callahan. I own Callahan Medical Supply Corporation. We manufacture and distribute medical equipment to hospitals and clinics across 15 states. The company is worth about $2.3 billion. The room started spinning. I gripped the edge of the table. What? That day I came in here, I was in town negotiating a contract with County General Hospital, a very large contract, but I was also doing something else. He paused, his eyes holding mine. I was testing something. Testing what? People, humanity, kindness. His voice cracked slightly. My wife died 3 years ago, Isabella's mother, cancer, and after she passed, I became bitter. Everyone who approached me wanted something: money, connections, opportunities. I started to believe that genuine kindness didn't exist anymore, that everyone had an angle. So sometimes when I'm traveling, I do this thing where I deliberately forget my wallet. I see how people react, see if anyone helps without knowing who I am or what I have. My mouth went dry. "You were testing me?" "Not just you. Everyone in this diner. And you know what? You were the only person who helped us at the door. You were the only person who stepped in when we couldn't pay. And you didn't just pay the bill, Monique. You gave my daughter money for her dreams. You gave from your need, not from your abundance. That's the rarest thing in this world." Tears were streaming down my face now. She reminded me of my son. I couldn't just... I know. That's why I came back. He nodded to the woman next to him, and she pulled out a large envelope. "This contains $10,000 in cash. It's yours. No strings attached, but there's more." The man pulled out another envelope, thicker this time. "This is a full scholarship to the nursing program at State University. I spoke to your boss, Helen. She mentioned you'd always wanted to be a nurse but couldn't afford school. This covers tuition, books, housing, everything. 4 years, fully funded." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. Why? Why would you do this? Trevor's eyes got misty. Because when I was 19 years old, I was living in my third foster home. I'd been bounced around the system my whole life. I got accepted to community college, but I had no money. None. I was sitting at a bus stop crying, about to give up on everything, when an old woman sat down next to me. She asked what was wrong. I told her. And you know what she did? She took out her checkbook and paid for my first semester. $1,500, her entire Social Security check for that month. She said, "I'm betting on you, young man. Don't let me down." He wiped his eyes. I never saw her again. Never got to thank her properly. Never got to tell her that her bet paid off, that I graduated, built a business, became successful. So now I do this. I have a foundation that looks for people like you, people who give from the heart, people who show kindness when nobody's watching, when there's nothing in it for them. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've helped about 200 people. But Monique, what you did that day, that wasn't just kindness, that was sacrifice. You gave what you couldn't afford to give. That's the definition of love. I was sobbing now, my whole body shaking. Helen came over and put her arms around me. Other customers were crying too. Even old Mr. Henderson in the corner had tears running down his face. "I don't know what to say," I whispered. "Say you'll accept it. Say you'll go to nursing school and become the healer I know you're meant to be. Say you'll pass this forward someday when you can." I looked at those envelopes on the table. $10,000, a full scholarship, a completely different life for me and Andre and my mama, a future I'd stopped even dreaming about. And all because I helped a little girl stuck in a doorway. All because I gave $33 I couldn't afford to lose. "Yes," I breathed out. "Yes, I'll accept it. And I promise you, Mr. Callahan, I swear to you, I will pass this forward. I will make you proud." He smiled then, a real smile that lit up his whole face. "You already have." That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm in my second semester of nursing school, and y'all, I'm actually good at it. Really good. My grades are better than I ever thought possible. The rent is paid. Andre has new shoes and a warm winter coat, and he's in this amazing after-school program that's preparing him for college. My mama's medicine is covered, and she's healthier than she's been in years. I still work at the diner on weekends because I never want to forget where I came from, and Helen says I'm the best advertisement they've ever had. People come in just to meet the waitress with the miracle story. Isabella visits me once a month. Trevor brings her by, and we have pancakes with extra syrup, and she tells me about school and her friends, and yes, about the aquarium. He took her the week after he gave me that money, and she hasn't stopped talking about the dolphins since. She wants to be a marine biologist now, and I believe she will be. Trevor and I have become friends. Real friends. Not because of his money, but because we understand each other. We both know what it's like to lose everything. We both know what it's like to be saved by kindness. And we both know that the only thing that matters in this life is how we treat each other when nobody's watching, when there's nothing to gain, when we're giving from our last $23. I think about that Tuesday morning all the time. How close I came to walking past that wheelchair, to letting someone else help. How easy it would have been to tell Trevor I couldn't pay his bill, that I had my own problems. And I would have been justified. Nobody would have blamed me. But something bigger than logic took over that day. Something that my mama always called divine alignment. Being exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to do, even when it doesn't make sense. Here's what I learned, and I need you to hear this. Kindness is never wasted, even when you can't afford it, even when it hurts to give, even when the person you're helping is a stranger who might disappear and never say thank you. You do it anyway, because that's what makes us human. That's what separates us from the darkness. And listen, you never know who's watching. But more importantly, you never know whose life you're changing. Sometimes it's theirs, sometimes it's yours. Most of the time it's both. I'm going to graduate in 3.5 years. I'm going to work in pediatric care because kids like Isabella deserve nurses who see them, really see them, not just their disabilities or their challenges, but their whole beautiful souls. I'm going to make enough money to help my mama retire. I'm going to send Andre to a good college. And one day when I have enough saved up, I'm going to find someone who needs help. Someone struggling at a diner, maybe, or at a bus stop, or at a grocery store, counting pennies for bread, and I'm going to pay it forward, just like that old woman did for Trevor, just like Trevor did for me. Because this is how we heal the world, y'all. Not with grand gestures or big speeches, but with $23 given when we only have $23 to give. With wheelchair lifts when everyone else is looking away, with seeing the humanity in every single person we meet, treating them like they matter, because they do. Now, I want you to do something for me. Think about someone in your life right now who could use a helping hand. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Maybe it's a coworker who's struggling. Maybe it's a neighbor who seems lonely. Maybe it's a stranger at the store who's short on their bill. Do something. Even if it's small, even if it costs you something you can't afford. Trust me when I tell you, the universe has a way of balancing the scales. And listen, if this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time someone helped you when you needed it most, or a time you helped someone else. I read every single comment and your stories matter. They remind all of us what we're supposed to be doing down here. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on those notifications, because I've got more stories that will restore your faith in people. Real stories about real kindness, about regular folks doing extraordinary things. We need these reminders now more than ever. Until next time, remember this: your small act of kindness might be someone's miracle. Your $23 might change an entire life. You have more power than you know. Use it for good. Peace and blessings, y'all. And thank you for listening to my story.